everyone, welcome back to the Zekko Football channel. You are watching the recap, the show where we go through the major talking points from the most recent round of Premier League fixtures. We've got a cracking bill for you today, so get yourself sat comfortable, get yourself a drink and a snack, and we can get right into it. If you are new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, you like the video, and you turn on those notifications. Right, without further ado, let's recap. We begin on Merseyside. Liverpool 2, Everton 0, and normally you would see me go towards the attacking momentum bar and say, this is where the game was broken down, this is how the game flowed, and to a certain extent, that is the case here. However, I don't think this shows how much Everton put into the game, and although Liverpool really did dominate the game, Everton had a flurry here and there. It was mostly Liverpool, especially after that red card. We'll get to that decision in just a moment, and also what was not given. But overall, I actually want to start on Everton. I thought they were compact, I thought they defended very well, I thought they defended valiantly. Normally you see Merseyside derbies turn up in a very much a one-way affair, and don't get me wrong, this was that as well. But Everton really did show some courage, they showed some fight. I thought Onana was absolutely sensational, especially in stopping Liverpool from going through the middle of the pitch. Tarkowski and Branthwaite did a great job. Ashley Young obviously will be on the pages and making a poor name for himself after two pretty bad challenges. Overall, Everton's attack really did let them down. I thought Calvert-Lewin didn't look fit. Overall, Harrison just didn't add enough for me, and McNeil was going central far too much, obviously to combat the way that Liverpool wanted to go forwards, but at the same time it really hampered Everton going down the flanks, which I thought was where the space was. James Garner and Doucouré did an okay job. Doucouré was a very frustrating player for me. He got on the ball and went on some driving runs, but occasionally, and most of the time actually, he went down blind alleys, and he never managed to find a teammate, and it just stopped Everton from being able to progress the ball forwards. And that is credit to Liverpool in the way they held their mid to low block, making sure that Everton couldn't get anywhere near their goal. Liverpool set up in a very attacking way. They started Ryan Gravenberch, which I did not expect, and to be honest with you, it kind of showcased in the match why I didn't think he should be starting. He didn't really have any impotence in the game, and I didn't think he really drove forwards with a purpose. He picked up decent pockets of space, but at the same time Liverpool weren't able to use them through the middle of the pitch. The space was out wide, especially after the red card. I thought Mo Salah did an okay job, and Luis Diaz really was the danger man, and of course that's where the penalty comes from. Diogo Jota again wasn't really doing it for me. I thought that Liverpool needed to be a lot quicker in transition and making sure that they were able to go from defence to attack a lot faster. The progression through the pitch was far too slow, and that's why Everton was so comfortable for so long, and that's why it took a penalty to really open up the game. Trent Alexander-Arnold walking into midfield is no surprise to us now, but it did surprise me that they didn't revert back to a standard two wing-back system, in the sense that the two fullbacks didn't do any overlapping. The width and the space was in the wide area, so it surprised me that Liverpool were so narrow. If you have a look at their attackers, they're pretty much within the width of the penalty area, and that just summed up Liverpool's game. They didn't really figure Everton out, and they didn't really figure out how to really get the best out of their attack in comparison to the way Everton were playing. And that's credit to Everton, and also it needs to be said something about Liverpool's attack, but they didn't play too well and they still got the victory. Let's talk about the refereeing decisions. I don't like talking about referees, but we do need to really discuss it, because there are two challenges, or two major incidents. The penalty's a penalty. I don't know what Michael Keane's doing, so that's by the by. We'll forget that one. However, the red card for Ashley Young, was it a red card? Was it a red card? Was it not? It was definitely a red card. I think you could have delayed the yellow card for the foul on Diaz, the first foul. However, the moment that he goes to a yellow card, that is a yellow card for the rest of the game, and that's that, which is fine. Ashley Young's second tackle is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what he's doing while being on a yellow card, especially with the intensity of Anfield and the way that Liverpool want to go forwards. But the Konate challenge. What the referee is doing, I don't know. He's booked him for blocking off the striker going forwards and stopping a counter-attack, and he does it again. But he doesn't book him the second time. I think Liverpool have seriously got away with one. Jurgen Klopp said that exact same thing in his post-match press conference. Sean Dyche was absolutely livid. I can understand why. It should have been 10 men each, but it wasn't. Liverpool capitalised on Everton throwing men forwards, and it ended up being 2-0. We can have a look at some of the stats, but it will be heavily weighed in Liverpool's favour because of the red card, but also because of the way that Everton wanted to defend. 2xG, I thought Liverpool were pretty good, although I thought they took too long to figure out how to break this Everton side down. 6 shots on target really does showcase it from 26 total shots, and it just shows that I don't think Liverpool really understood the game plan for Everton. I don't think they understood how to really break them down. Nevertheless, they got their victory, and that's the main thing, and it turns out that Merseyside is still red. And now we turn our attention to London. Chelsea against Arsenal. A huge battle, one for the title and also for the top 4 race. Chelsea were magnificent. You can't say it from the attacking momentum bar because it looks like it's mostly Arsenal, but trust me, Chelsea were fantastic. And if I just scroll down and have a look at the Chelsea team, there are no strikers in this lineup. What actually ended up happening is that when Chelsea were defending, they ended up playing a 4-4-2. Conor Gallagher and Cole Palmer almost as 2 main strikers, Mikhailo Mudryk, Fernandes, Caicedo and Sterling as a midfield 4, and then obviously you have the back 4. Cucurella and Gusto were extremely aggressive in the way that they combated Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli. It was very impressive to see. And then going forwards, Chelsea almost played with 2 number 10s, Gallagher and Cole Palmer, dropping that a little bit deeper, allowing Mudryk and Sterling to really hold the width for this side. It was an ingenious plan that worked for about 77 minutes. And I say it worked for about 77 minutes because that's when Chelsea seemed to capitulate. I couldn't really understand it, but I put it down to the just fragility and the volatility of youth. And Chelsea's squad is so young. Mudryk, Fernandes, Caicedo, Gallagher, Palmer, Gusto, Colwill, Cucurella. They're all so young, maybe not Cucurella at this point, but they're all so young, and that means that their mentality is somewhat fragile. So the moment that Robert Sanchez, which any goalkeeper can make, let's be completely honest, I know a lot of people are having a go at him, any goalkeeper can make a huge mistake. But it was the way that Chelsea almost capitulated from that moment. The passing accuracy almost started to dwindle. Then Arsenal started to get a foothold in the game and they smelt blood. And that's the best way that I can really describe it. Arsenal smelt something in the game. Chelsea were scared. Chelsea were worried. Let's talk about Arsenal for a moment, because I thought that they were really poor. And that was mostly down to the way that Chelsea played, but I didn't think that Bukayo Saka looked fit. I didn't think that Martinelli actually managed to do anything. He wasn't supported by Zinchenko that much, who was hooked after 45 minutes. I thought he failed to have an impact on the game, and generally, they were leaving far too much space out on this left-hand side. Ben White was getting back more often than not, but Zinchenko's leaving of his position just meant that Sterling had so much more time and space to really attack this Arsenal back line. Mikel Arteta saw this and then brought on Tomiyasu, and they looked a little bit more stable. Of course, the Mudryk goal is a freak. I don't think he means it. But generally, Chelsea should have walked away with all 3 points. They were the better side. They essentially battered Arsenal for about 70 plus minutes. But in the end, Arsenal showed the resilience of champions, I would argue, and managed to get that 2-2 draw. Of course, we need to talk about the major incident, the penalty. William Saliba, should it have been a penalty? Was it a penalty? Yes, of course it was a penalty. His arm is outstretched. It stops the ball going anywhere near the goal. I don't want to see penalties given for that, but I understand why it's given. And with the way the rules are written and with the letter of the law today, it is a penalty. On that, Arsenal should have had a penalty as well, because Robert Sanchez, at some point during the game, just comes and clatters both Levi Colwill and Gabriel Jesus. And I can't for the life of me understand why the referee didn't give it, especially when so much was made of the Onana incident at Manchester United against Wolverhampton Wanderers. How that wasn't a penalty. Everyone said it was a penalty afterwards, but nobody's talking about that. Arsenal should have had a penalty, in my opinion. Overall, Chelsea should have won the game, but they didn't. Arsenal shouldn't have won the game, but they didn't. And it ended up the spoils were 2-2. And I don't know. Chelsea should feel happy with the way that they played and the way they set up. Their game plan was brilliant, and it really does show that Mauricio Pochettino still does have it. That setup, I don't think many people could have predicted, and it worked a treat, like I said, for about 70 minutes. Arsenal will feel buoyed by the fact that they've managed to get a point from somewhere that arguably they didn't deserve, and they move on to the next game. The game finished Chelsea 2, Arsenal 2. What? Both sides happy and sad? Is that fair? Yeah, it's a tricky one. And now from London, we head up towards Newcastle. I don't think any side in the Premier League has returned from international break better than Newcastle. They were absolutely sensational against Crystal Palace in their 4-0 victory. It was 3-0 at half-time, and as you can see from the attacking momentum bar, it was all Newcastle in that half, really getting the job done and then scoring that fourth, allowing them to make changes for their Champions League game in midweek. Really, it was a tale of mismatch. Crystal Palace have a load of players out, but really, Newcastle actually pinpointed Will Hughes and Odsonne Edouard out on this Crystal Palace left-hand side and just dominated them. They focused down there so very much, and you can see that from the average positions. You can see Bruno Guimaraes really leaning over towards Newcastle's right-hand side. Sean Longstaff and Murphy here, along with Kieran Trippier. They did so much work down this right-hand side, and I think that's down to a couple of things. Number one, I don't think Will Hughes is the most defensive-orientated player. Tyreek Mitchell really was left on an island thanks to Odsonne Edouard not getting back as much as he should have done. And then it's also partly down to how good or how defensively solid Jordan Ayew is and covering for Joel Ward. Lerma is also okay as well, but they really did punish this Crystal Palace left-hand side, which was absolutely decimated, especially in the first half. Palace were okay, but they failed to really create any kind of major opportunities. Newcastle were brilliant, I might add. Sean Longstaff's runs off the ball were fantastic. Jacob Murphy got an absolute worldie in, as well as a couple of fantastic assists for Anthony Gordon and Callum Wilson. And Newcastle are absolutely purring. We'll end by having a look at some of the statistics, because really, although Palace had a load of shots, they didn't get anything on target, really. Newcastle had more possession. Newcastle more shots on target, or less shots, I should say, more shots on target. 2.3 expected goals. It was an alright game, but overall I think there was only one winner, especially so early on. And Palace huffed and puffed that they failed to really get anything back in the game. I'm sure they will get much better once they get some of their major attacking players back. Elise, Eze, once they come back into a side, the creativity for Crystal Palace will flow, and hopefully for them, so will the goals. But Newcastle are absolutely sensational in this game, and they roll on to their Champions League fixture with a 4-0 victory over Crystal Palace. And now let's have a look at some scores from around the grounds. We've got Nottingham Forest drawing with Luton by 2-2. Forest were up in this game by 2-0, but Luton came back to draw late on in the game. A fantastic comeback from them, which should hopefully kickstart their season, and I believe just before we have a look at the Premier League table, they might be out of the bottom three. Brilliant for them. Let's move on and have a look at Bournemouth against Wolves. Gary O'Neill returning to Bournemouth after being sacked by them, after keeping them up in the Premier League. I thought he was harshly treated, and it doesn't seem to be going great for Ndoli Iraola at the moment, does it? But Wolverhampton Wanderers are pretty special at the minute. Gary O'Neill has really gotten them playing some special football. Bournemouth go up, but they have the resilience to then come back. It was a bit of a bitty first half, going one way and the other. Bournemouth really having some chances, Wolves doing that as well, and then the red card happens. It's 1-1, a stupid decision by Cook to headbutt Hwang Hee-chan, and then it all changes. Wolves' momentum and dominance of the game really did shine through, and they also had the cutting edge to be able to create some goal scoring opportunities. I'm seeing some very good patterns of play, I'm seeing some very good interchanges, and all of a sudden Wolverhampton Wanderers look like an exciting football proposition. They have some gritty defenders, they have the ability to traverse from midfield to attack, and they can score some goals. Cunha's goal was absolutely sensational, and the finish from Kolasinac was brilliant. Wolves are doing something special under Gary O'Neill, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but they might be safe. They might be. Don't quote me on it, but I've got a good feeling about them. Brentford against Burnley. Burnley are struggling, as are every promoted side, to be honest with you. Brentford scored some absolute screamers in this game. Once you have finished watching this, please go and check out the highlights if you haven't seen them already, because they score some bangers, honestly. It's absolutely brilliant. Brentford really had some cutting edge. Burnley weren't in the first half whatsoever. They got a man sent off. They failed to score some clear-cut opportunities, and they've only got themselves to blame. Vincent Kompany is going to need to do a lot of work over the next few weeks, because it's looking really poor for them. Really poor. Right, let's move on and have a look at Brighton against Manchester City. Brighton visiting the Etihad, and this was billed as the football fans' dream. Two sides that really want to play good football, and it really disappointed in the first half, if I'm honest. Man City were the only side in it, and this was down to the positioning of John Stones. Because he played in midfield, but also as a centre-back, Brighton didn't understand whether they should be pressing forwards and pressing the defenders of Man City, or whether they should sit off in their mid-block. This allowed Jeremy Doku to have far too much time and space against the 30-odd James Milner, and it was just a complete mismatch. De Zerbi gets into them at half-time and really starts to change things around, but it was a little bit too late. They did get a goal through Ansu Fati, and of course Akanji got sent off for 2 yellow cards. But in the end, they failed to convert their scoring opportunities, and Man City are back to winning ways. Finally, let's talk about Sheffield United against Manchester United, of course, on the day that it was announced of the sad passing of Sir Bobby Charlton. Everyone involved with the Zekko Football Channel obviously sends our heartfelt condolences to Sir Bobby Charlton's friends and family and everyone at Manchester United. He was an absolute legend. The best player to play for England, in my opinion, and he will be sorely, sorely missed. Let us talk about the football, though. Sheffield United really did come out swinging after... This is the first game at home after their 8-0 loss to Newcastle, so they really did need to prove something. Injuries meant that they had to play a back four, and that arguably was better for them, because Manchester United failed to get down any kind of attacking play, and Sheffield United's real creation and their hard-working nature allowed them to get a penalty out of it, although they conceded just before that, thanks to Scott McTominay. But they caused Manchester United some serious problems. A couple of shots from outside the box. Johnny Evans looked a little bit shaky at times. Harry Maguire, I must say, had an absolute blinder. He did very, very well once Manchester United were trying to push for a winning goal in the second half. He did a brilliant job of getting onto the back of both Cameron Archer and Ollie McBurney. Of course, once some of the substitutes came on as well, he did really good at winning his duels, winning his aerial duels, and it allowed Manchester United to really sustain some attacks. The first time we've actually seen them sustain attacks in quite some time. Sheffield United just didn't have enough quality, if I'm completely honest with you. Neither did Manchester United, and it was a game that was really lacking in quality, but one side needed to win it, and it turned out to be the right-back, Diogo Dalot, with an absolute screamer from outside the box to convert Manchester United's draw into a victory, something that I'm sure every Manchester United fan will be very happy about. Those are the scores. And finally, to wrap up, let's take a look at the Premier League table. Sheffield United sit in bottom after their loss to Manchester United. They've conceded 24 goals already this season after only 9 games. That is nowhere near good enough. Burnley and Bournemouth make up that bottom 3. Luton are out of the bottom 3 into 17th. Everton are 16th. Wolves climb up into 12th. Now, if you would have told a Wolves fan that at the start of the season, I think they would have bitten your hand off. They're playing some good football. They're actually starting to grind out some results. And now I believe they are 4 games unbeaten. Not bad at all. Chelsea stay in 10th, or I believe move up to 10th after their draw with Arsenal. Manchester United move up to 8th after their victory over Sheffield United. Newcastle are in 5th after scoring 24 goals in 9 games. 16 points on the board. Liverpool are in 3rd now with 20 points, 1 point off the top, which is shared by both Arsenal and Man City on 21 points, and the Premier League title race is starting to hot up. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who is your team and how did they do this weekend? Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care.